This is just a quick ad hoc screencast on how to extract information from the vertical adornments in Insight 2. I've gone ahead and moved up to a page of EEG with the onset of a seizure. And so the first thing I want to do is define what I want to measure. By default, the vertical adornments that we'll place, I'll go ahead and right click here, insert vertical adornment, and I'm going to pick frequency domain analysis. By default, this is just doing the current page of EEG. And so to change that, I can put it in a range. So that'll be the first thing I'm going to look at. And there's a couple ways to do it. One is using new cursors to indicate the position of that. And I can remove this checkbox so that when I place a range, then I can just bump the EEG either way to move that. Now you can also use comments with a duration to mark ranges as well, but we'll just do this. I'll just pick a few seconds. And so now I'm going to right click over here and I'm going to go to the properties of this FFT on the right. I'm going to select bin analysis because I want to mark frequency ranges. You can use cursor analysis, which is just placing a cursor measuring it, measuring the amplitudes at that particular point. Now I can create frequency bins over here on the right. I'm going to load them from a file, and under Program Data Persist, there'll be a file called fdabins.xml. You can create and save your own as well. So there's a save to file option, but I just loaded standard delta, theta, alpha, beta. Again, you can use any custom ranges you wish. Importantly though, that range that I placed on the EEG, right now when I go to data ranges, I have EEG page. So I'm going to switch that to ranges, and I'll pick selected. So I've got a range selected here, nothing before and after. Spectrum, we'll do 0 to 32 hertz. Again, if I change this, then I'll get a different range here. So now we've got this. Now, if some of this is clipping off on the side and the bottom here, you can change that. That's just a quick item here. If I click the display properties, also from the view menu, that's available. From the EEG page tab, I can go ahead and click the page size, and I can add top margins and bottom margins to this, and you'll see that it bumps this up a little bit, so now I can see the position of these cursors placed along the bottom. So let me go ahead and just set that back so I'm not clipping off my beta range here. So go to spectrum, and I'll go ahead and set that back up to 32 hertz. And there's my 30 hertz top of the range there. So now this is showing me what's happening at this particular range. And if I bump the EEG to the right, we'll see as the seizure evolves that the frequency bump here between 14 and 16 hertz is going to move downward as the seizure evolves. You can see that sliding downward in the range as the seizure evolves. Okay, so I'll go back to the onset, use that little single arrow there, and let's say I wanted to export some values from this. So I can right click, insert vertical adornment, and do FDA table. And we've got a table of values here. I can right click and copy to the clipboard. But what is it showing? So also from the right click menu underneath this table, we have properties here as well. And let's say I just wanted to look at the peak frequency and the integrated amplitude area of the curve within the bin. Click OK, and now we have the amplitudes and the peak frequency per bin. And so if we look at our beta bin, we can right click, copy this to the clipboard, we'd see that it's what frequency we have here. And this isn't fitting on the page, so I can go here. If I go to the edge of these adornments, you'll see that there's a place where it becomes a two-headed arrow. And I can shrink this down and see more of that. So I'm just going to move this a bit over to the side here so we can get more of the table on the page. And looking at the beta, peak frequency here is 15 hertz, which is between 14 and 16. It works out well. And again, I can copy this to the clipboard. Now as I move this over to the right, using the single arrow here to bump the EEG 1 second at a time, the EEG is scrolling underneath this range, and you can see the values here are updating accordingly. So that's how this works. Now if I wanted to save this layout, I could go to montage and save adornment montage, and I'm going to call this FDA bins 1. Okay, so now it's available from this drop-down list. So if I select NA, it's gone. If I select that, it returns. And there's some other things too, like this is one that's built in. And that does delta, theta, alpha, beta, and projects it onto a map. Well, which map? That's the one that's selected over here. And I've got some maps for antifree and so forth that I've saved. And that's how to do the basic frequency analysis in Persist and how to save that so you don't have to redo it every time.